Okay, so I'm Nina Paley, and is this picture okay? Anything else I need to do? Let me know in that chat box. That's that's all I have is that chat box here. I'll raise it up so my eyes aren't quite so low. Um, okay, well, I am already a hardcore copyright opponent. Excellent. Oh yes, right, jump ship. Um, Cool. Well, I'm Nina Paley. You may know about me and my story. I made a film called Sita Sings the Blues. That film is free. It is copyleft. And I'm a copyright abolitionist. I'm an artist. I've been an artist my entire career. Uh, I've been in the copyright industries a long time. Did a syndicated comic strip. I did three different syndicated comic strips for newspapers. Started doing animation 1998. Did this feature film. I used old music that was supposed to be in the public domain by the 1980s. It's never going to be in the public domain because Congress keeps retroactively extending copyright terms. And in order to have this, my IP lecturer will not approve of me watching this. Good. In order to have the film be legal, I had to really go deep into the murky depths of our copyright system and clear licenses for music that was supposed to be in the public domain a long time ago. The amount that I was quoted that this would cost, man, this is a long story. I wish that people could like raise their hands and I could just say, how many people here know my story? How many people know about Sita Sings the Blues? Or do I have to say this story over again? Um, the shorter version of the story is after having to hire lawyers and intermediaries to even get a response. Oh, okay. After hiring lawyers and intermediaries to even get a response from the corporations that own the property of these old songs, which I call culture. They're not actually property. Um, I was quoted about $220,000 for a film whose entire budget was less than $200,000, and my film was illegal for a year. I could screen it in film festivals because in order to even talk to the corporations that supposedly owned this property, I had to pay them $500 per song. Um, $500 per song and sign a document that promised that I would not make any money from the film and that I could only show it for 1 year. So it was in festivals, it was illegal to show anywhere else. I was hemorrhaging money. Um, uh, yeah, in the end, what all I really wanted to do was give the film away for free because the more that I thought about uh, the more I thought about what benefits were going to come from copyright, the more I realized that they were going to be few. I'm so bored with my own story, though. I have to say, I've told this story like 100 zillion times, and it's all online. The information is all out there. Former copyright, the typical copyright liking artist uh, goes rogue and frees her film. So what ended up happening is I ended up spending $70,000, $50,000 on little mini licenses and about $20,000 on legal transaction fees to decriminalize the film so that I could give it away for free. I can also sell the film, and I do. I mean, I can legally sell it. It's just that for every 5,000 copies sold, I have to make additional payments. So I have sort of an economic disincentive to sell copies and a huge incentive to give copies away for free. And then what I sell is property. I sell property. It's funny how economics work. Like you make money selling scarce goods, not selling infinite goods. So the information that I make, the film, my content is free. It's information. It's not property, and neither I nor anybody else have any business selling that which is not property. It's free. It's out there. It's public. It belongs to everyone. It's alive. And I make money selling what are called scarce goods or rivalrous goods, such as DVDs, pins, t-shirts. I'm wearing a t-shirt now. Not a t-shirt from the film. This is a questioncopyright.org t-shirt. And in the process of all of this, I was, both appalled and I guess enlightened in my ideas about what copyright is and what intellectual property is, changed in such a way that I just can't think the way that I used to think about it. So now it's like I'm living on another planet where what's called intellectual property is so clearly not property, but we have a whole legal structure around it that treats it like it is property, and even the phrase intellectual property implies that something is property that's not property, and I just go through the world, I don't know, telling people how I magically make more money without restricting other people's access to my work and without restricting other people's freedom of expression. IP isn't property. It's in my comic strip Mimi and Eunice, I say it stands for intellectual pooperty. This is all very opinionated and everything. A couple days ago, I was at an IP law symposium, I was the only non-lawyer there, and people were very diplomatic and careful about what they said. But the truth is that I just think the very concept of intellectual property is insane. It's anti-speech, it's anti-freedom, it's censorship. Copyright functions by censoring other people. If you have the right to copy something, what that means is that you are given state privilege or something to punish other people for expressing the same thing. Problems with copyright are myriad. We're losing lots of culture. One typical problem with it is if one entity has the right to copy something and nobody else does, that entity is under no obligation to make copies of that thing. So we have tons of culture that's just rotting, tons of culture that nobody is aware of because the single entity that has a monopoly on making copies can't be bothered to make copies, and it's illegal for anybody else to. So, I can't even imagine how much amazing culture is out there that we just don't have access to, and won't have access to because of these copyright laws. That's just one example. So I'm hoping I can spend the rest of the time looking at these the little chat box and trying to have a conversation as I usually do in real life. It's just eerie talking to myself on this screen. So if anybody has any questions, please let us converse. So everybody agrees with me? Copyright is censorship? Copyright sucks? Any argument there? Hopefully I'm preaching to the choir. We're all cool. We're all in agreement. Enough said. There we go. Oh, what should we do to change things? It's funny. A lot of people are trying to. Well, first I'll address what should we do to change things. The best thing about copyright reform or copyright change is that things are changing regardless of what we do. There are those of us like me who spout theories. There's Lawrence Lessig, his theories. There's lots of people with lots of theories about this. I hope you've read Stephan Kinsella's I think it was just against intellectual property book. He lays it all out really well. But for me, the most heartening thing is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we say or what we write or what I think. The reality is that people are copying things because it's natural to copy things, and that there's a sort of basic human impulse to share culture. That's what human beings do. So regardless of what the laws are, people are ignoring them. And that's great. That's really great. In terms of changing the law, I don't think it's politically viable to have any meaningful copyright reform. Most of our laws are written by lobbyists, the very powerful media monopolies that have consolidated all of this power over the years from having these copyright monopolies. They're the ones writing the laws. The MPAA just basically writes legislation and then buys candidates, and that's how we get these worse and worse copyright laws. So I don't think there's any political will to change legislation. I mean, any legislator that stood up for copyright reform would be in real trouble because they wouldn't have the campaign contributions that they would need to compete. So that's not going to happen. But you know, the great thing is people are copying stuff anyway. So things are changing. You know, it's not like I'm changing things. It's not like we can change things. The good news is that things are changing, and they just will. And the law is not keeping up with what people are actually doing, and so be it. It's unfortunate because when you have a state where the laws have nothing to do with what people are actually doing, you have a recipe for, you know, intense civil unrest. Anyway, let us look at some of these other questions. Let me look at the next one. How are artists then supposed to get paid for their work? Artists get paid the same way with or without copyright. There's one really simple alternative. Like if you like contracts and if you like rules, instead of using copyright, you can use what's called the creator endorsed mark. Let me go get an example of that. Hang on. So here's a typical DVD of mine. This is the PAL DVD, and on the back you see the creator endorsed mark, which lets you know that this particular distribution is paying the artist money. Because audiences generally want, and they actually always want to support artists. I mean, that's why copyright exists. That's why there's any moral argument for copyright in the first place. It's like, well, we need to support artists. Artists need money. How are we going to get the money? A distribution that supports an artist is more valuable than a distribution that rips off an artist or just, you know, doesn't support an artist. Actually, I don't even believe in the whole ripping off theory. So what the creator endorsed mark does is it lets you know that a distribution is supporting an artist, and that increases the value of that particular distribution. If people were distributing, and maybe they are, distributing DVDs of See This Sings the Blues without my endorsement, they're free to do that. They are. But they have a competitive disadvantage when there are distributions that are endorsed by me that do support me. Most people buy things that they could otherwise get for free because they want to support an artist. And, you know, that's the argument people keep making for copyright, but you don't actually need copyright in order to do that, because the way copyright works is it forbids anybody else from making copies, period, across the board. It criminalizes making copies. It criminalizes expression and distribution. And using the creator endorsed mark instead doesn't take away anybody's freedom of speech, freedom of commerce, anything like that, but it does let people know what's supporting the artist and what is not. That's just one example. I mean, the reality is, if you ask most artists where their money comes from, you can ask them and they'll say, oh, it's copyright, it's copyright. But the truth is that most income for artists does not come from copyright. Most of it comes from commissions. Beforehand, you do not need any sort of copyright in order to do a commission. I just did a freelance job recently where this institution needed some art for a particular purpose. And if that art had already been out there in the public domain, they wouldn't have needed to hire me. It would have already been available to them. Well, this art didn't exist. So they hired me to make something exist that didn't exist so that they can use it. You don't need copyright for that. You know, this is going to be, it is under a free and open license. They're not going to release it until June. So it's not published yet. But it's going to be under a free and open license, and that's fine. Most of the value is going to them because it expressly suits the purposes that they have, and there was nothing else in the public domain that did that. So commissions works. You don't need copyright in order to do commissions. There's selling originals. There's the sad truth about artists with or without copyright is most of them make money teaching. I don't do that because I don't like I don't like most big educational institutions, although they do pay, so I do some of that. There's grants. In my own case, you know, I get money from, you know, endorsed endorsed merchandise. It works just like copyright, except nobody's freedom of speech is impinged. Okay, let's go on to the next question. So that's how artists get paid for their work. I would rather some big company didn't steal my work. That's fine. Like, for those who believe that copying is stealing, don't publish your work. Like, publish means to make public, and you don't have to do that. Nobody is suggesting invading your privacy. All I want is for property to be treated as property and non-property to not be treated as property. Can I explain the economic model that I use? Yes. The economic model I use is basically use the unlimited resource to sell the limited resources. So the information, the work, the content is an unlimited resource. And by that I mean that if you copy it, it doesn't cost me anything. It's not like it used to be before the internet. It used to be that for copies to exist at all, somebody had to pay a lot of money. I mean, the fact is that, like, if you're copying it, you're paying for the cost of that copy, and if you're distributing it, you're paying for the cost of that distribution. I'm not paying for any of those things. You're not taking anything away from me. What you are doing is you're increasing the cultural value of the work by sharing it, and when the cultural value of the work increases, the scarce things that I sell, be they or let's endorsed limited things, and let me just try to make this clear. This physical thing, this is scarce. So the data on this is not scarce. The data on this is not rivalrous. You can copy the data off of this without diminishing this actual container of data at all. You could take this and make 1 million copies of it, but this is still going to have its integrity as a thing. You're not going to make less of it. You're going to be making more of it. So the data is not rivalrous. Nothing is lost when you make copies of it. It's only increased. But this actual physical DVD, if you were to take this physical DVD, I would have one less. I had to go, the publisher of this had to go through the process of paying to have these things made. There's only so many of them. If they run out, we're going to have to pay to have more of them made. This is a scarce, rivalrous good. If you take this from me, it's gone. I don't have it anymore. I'll have to then put money and resources into making a new copy of it. That will not be exactly like this one. I mean, however this one's been nicked and dinged, this is actually a unique physical thing with its own unique atoms locked into it. So anyway, the more people see the content of this, the actual art that this package contains, the more valuable that content becomes, and as a result, the more saleable this thing is. Like, if nobody had ever heard of Sita Sings the Blues, if this was just like, I don't know, a video of my shoes or something, something that nobody cared about, nobody wanted, and nobody liked, this package wouldn't have any value. It turns out that the more the content circulates, the more these packages have value. And quite contrary to what the MPAA says, when I first released Sita Sings the Blues for free under a share-alike license on archive.org, that was in spring of 2009, I was flooded with requests for DVDs. And like, why would people want DVDs when they can just download it for free? There are reasons people want DVDs. There are reasons people want a physical package, but that is actually what they want. What they want is containers. They want limited containers of this unlimited content. That's just how it works, and I've sold thousands and thousands of DVDs. And I had to scramble in order to make a DVD. It took 3 months, or 2 or 3 months after releasing the film for free. It was sort of unexpected. But anyway, that's one way that money is made. Okay, the Digital Economy Act, big media, Sony News 2. If anyone used my music in a film or commercial without compensating me, I would feel very tremendously violated. Okay. I'm not going to tell anybody that what they're feeling is wrong. If you feel violated because of something somebody else does, that's your feeling. I don't. I've given that up. It's sort of like there are all kinds of things that I could feel violated over if I chose to, and I don't, because they're not actually violating me. But everybody's feelings are different, and I'm not saying go out there and do something that makes you feel violated. Actually, it's not up to you. You were saying that if somebody else does something, you feel violated. So I assume that if you felt violated, what you would want to do is have some means of punishing them or reacting to them in, other than just saying I feel violated, because maybe they'd laugh at you. This system doesn't work for me, because I'm not actually being violated. That's not to invalidate your feelings of being violated if other people exercise their own freedom. One other way to feel safer, if you want to feel safer within our pretty messed up copyright system, is to use a copyleft license. I mean, I wouldn't feel violated, but there is, if I really wanted to take legal action against somebody, which I don't, dear God, our legal system is so screwed up. I mean, that's one thing about this is, I really think that if somebody has awareness of how corrupt our legal system is and how dysfunctional it is, to then say oh, but I want the protections of it, that really, I don't want to be validating the system. I want to stay as far away from the legal system as I possibly can. The legal system is really not good for me or others. And there are ways to address problems that don't rely on the legal system. For example, if there's an artist that has specific requests about how they do or do not want their works to be used, and they have a community of fans, that community of fans is much better at, shall we say, enforcing the artist's wishes than the state is. I've actually seen this happen where an artist or a writer has been copied in such a way that they do not like, and irrelevant to copyright law, they've let their fans know it, and then their fans have gone about really taking to task whoever copied that stuff without their permission. Now, I'm not into that. I'm fine with people copying my stuff. I benefit from people copying my stuff. Everybody benefits from people copying their stuff. But whatever, I don't have that feeling of violation. But if I did feel violated by something, and if other people thought that was valid, that my feelings of violation were valid, they would probably stand up for me, and they would probably take to task whoever was doing that particular thing. Anyway, that's not the kind of really solid answer you probably want, but my real advice is just let go of it, because what other people do is not about you. And most of the arguments for copyright is oh, they're stealing potential income. And it's potential income is not income. If they're actually stealing money from you, that's one thing. But this whole idea of potential, they're stealing my hopes and dreams. Nobody can do that. Potential income is not income. Potential property is not property. Actual property is property, and what copyright does is it actually makes it illegal to use your property as you see fit. No, the existence of copyright does not protect individuals from corporations. It protects corporations from competition. Copyright is a monopoly, It is an artificial, state-backed monopoly. That's it. That's how it works. It does not protect individuals from corporations. If it did, you wouldn't have corporations buying politicians in order to enact stricter and stricter copyright laws. I mean, follow the money. It's not coming from individuals. It's corporations. So you're saying that your creation is not your property. That's correct. My creation is not my property. Is a construction worker's labor something that he should be paid for? That's irrelevant to whether or not my creation is my property. There is work, right? If somebody wants to pay for my scarce time, my time is scarce, right? My body is scarce, my time is scarce. These are things that I could call my property. So if somebody wants to pay me for those things, I may sell them. You know, if somebody pays me whatever, $3,000, I will fly to whatever state they're in and give a talk there. They have to pay me for it though. Now, if I fly to their state and give a talk and then say, you owe me $3,000, that's something else. Do you understand the difference here? Like you don't deserve to be paid because you choose to do something that somebody else may or may not want. If you want to be paid for your work, you negotiate that beforehand. Otherwise, I would just be walking around talking and, you know, here I am talking now. You all owe me money, right? You're stealing from me because I've chosen to give this talk. You're not stealing from me. This is my decision to give this talk. You're not paying me for it. I mean, you can feel free to donate it to me, but I made the decision to do this talk. So it's up to you whether or not you want to do work with no contract. I think artists do need to do work with no contract because what we're motivated by is not money. We're motivated by a need to express ourselves and a need to get our ideas out. That's the motivation. Turns out that when people like it, they frequently will support you if you give them a means. But this is not a contract. Law of supply and demand. The more people want a scarce item, the more each is worth. People, Windows OS, canonical. Okay, so y'all are discussing among themselves. Merch. So I don't care if people. So somebody says. So you don't care if people would copy your stuff if they give you credit. Yes, and let us talk about attribution because that's something that confuses a lot of people with copyright. I've heard many a copyright fan or people justify copyright as though copyright is what guarantees you attribution. Attribution is one of those things that is actually a gift of the audience. Your attribution is actually primarily protected if your work. The freer your work is, the harder it is for somebody to lie about it. And when people change attributions, what they're doing is they are lying about the author of the work. If people can get to my work, they know who made it. So if somebody copies it and lies about who actually produced it or drew it or whatever, it's their reputation, their scarce reputation that's going to suffer. It's not me, because people already know, because I've made my work free and there's evidence of it all over the place. People know that I made what I made. This is another example of community enforcement being much more effective, swift, and powerful than legal enforcement. Somebody asked me at the seminar, oh, what would happen if I took your comic strip and just changed the name and published it? And I said, you do that. Like, this was a law student, and I really wish he would do this and document what happened. My guess is that my readership would go up, my reputation would increase, and his reputation would be trashed. Although it's possible that through documenting it and making it clear that it was an experiment, his reputation would go up because he had done this experiment in order to show other people. And then both of we would have both won from this. But, certainly if you or anyone wants to copy my work and misattribute it, I think whoever does that is going to pay quite a bit with their own scarce and irreplaceable reputation, whereas mine will be fine. Okay, have I come across any art or culture institutions outside immediate activism that have embraced my ideas? Yeah, it's interesting. It's like copyleft is filtering up from all sorts of places. There is, of course, the entire free software movement, which has been going along for about 20 years and is making very functional software that much of the internet is running on. So yeah, I mean, these things these concepts are functioning far beyond what any activists are doing. And I'm tired of being an activist. Actually, I just have art that I want to make, and this is actually very simple. My position is very simple. I don't want or need copyright. What you guys do, I'm not going to be able to change the law, right? I can't take anyone's copyright away. That's the state's law. These laws have all been written by paid-off legislators, by giant media monopolies. So I'm not going to be able to change that. And, you know, everyone is free to exercise their right to restrict access to their works and to restrict other people's freedom of speech. I'm not going to stop that. But you're the one that it's going to hurt. You know, like as artists, this is not helping you. Copyright is not actually going to help you. Freeing your work may, I mean, I would guess it will help you, but don't listen to me. I mean, if I win either way. If people clamp down on their works, that means that there's less competition for me. That means that people have much more attention freed up for free works like mine. So I benefit because you're not competing with me. And then if you do freer works, I benefit because we live in a freer world, right? Everybody who chooses freedom over repression is making the world a little bit freer. So I win either way. I'm either going to, you know, outcompete you or be free along with you. So I'm not here to take anybody's, you know, right to copyright away. By all means, exercise that right. That's fine with me. Okay, is it moral for a musician that makes hundreds of thousands of dollars from their concerts to sue a poor student for downloading their music for free? Moral. Who the hell knows? What do I think about the Creative Commons license? That's a good question because the way you phrased it gives me a chance to talk about the Creative Commons brand. There is not a Creative Commons license. Creative Commons is an organization that offers 7 licenses. Some of those licenses are free. Most of those licenses are not free. Creative Commons licenses can be extremely restrictive. If you see anything with the NC initials in it, that means that it forbids commercial use. If you see anything with the NB initials in it, that means that you cannot make derivative works. You cannot build on it. So most Creative Commons, not most, so actually it's true, the most popular Creative Commons licenses are almost as restrictive as pure copyright. Now, I do use a Creative Commons license called a share-alike license, and let me just say that the 3 free licenses that they offer are the share-alike license without the non-commercial restriction. It's called CC by SA, and what that license does is it permits, I even hate the idea of like giving permission, but yes, it permits any use. You can do whatever you want with the work, except you can't restrict other people from doing the same. So the share-alike clause means that whatever you do with it, you have to release it under the same share-alike license so that it continues to be shared. There's also just CC BY, which is do whatever you want as long as you attribute. And there's CC 0, which may or may not be legally strong, which is an attempt to just place the work in the public domain. Now, the problem with all of the Creative Commons licenses, you know, from a sort of strict idealist point of view, is that all Creative Commons licenses ride on copyright. So if you actually read them, they are as threatening and disturbing as any copyright license. What they say is, you know, this license is granted by the copyright owner, and all of the threat and of force of copyright is behind this, and, you know, you must release this under the same license, or you must attribute this, or we can go legal on you. I do use, though, the share-alike license because it is the closest sort of facsimile of freedom that we have in a copyright system where everything is copyrighted by default. And, you know, I'm really glad that the Creative Commons people went to the trouble of, you know, at least making these licenses available. They don't solve the problem of our copyright regime. They are some of the licenses permit a sort of simulation of freedom within an unfree system. But they're not ideal. They're not going to solve the problems of copyright. Okay, self-releasing now. About 20% of downloaders paid something, even when they didn't have to, and the free download is a great tool to get my song on more iPods. Well, that's very good. Excellent, Jason Harper. The only work artists deserve to get paid for is the work that they can get validated before the work is even creative. I find that restrictive. No, I'm not saying anything about artists deserving to get paid. Everybody deserves to get paid. Artists, homeless people, everyone deserves, food and clothes and a roof over their head. There's lots of really great art that I would look at and go like, man, that artist should be rich. And they're not. There they are struggling away. Life is so unfair. Does making bad laws fix that? No. All making bad laws does is censor people and impinge on people's freedom of expression. But I absolutely think artists ought to have money. I've found that the best way for this to occur is to create mechanisms that allow people that like the artist's work to support the artist directly and not have lawyers and giant corporate intermediaries skimming everything that's going between them. That's actually benefited me a lot, and of course this is what the internet is great for, is it allows fans to support artists that they like directly. And they're free to do so. I don't think anyone should be compelled to, though. What else have we got? Obscurity is a bigger threat to authors than piracy. Not sure whom I stole that from. Jay Kent, you stole that, or you copied that from Tim O'Reilly of O'Reilly Books. I am wary of any art which has the sole purpose of generating money income, says Paul. Okay, so apparently a lot of people agree with me. I'm poor, I'm an artist. Your advice. I'm poor, I'm an artist. Your advice. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a good one. That's sort of what it all comes down to, being poor. I was thinking about this, actually, this morning, because I'm working in a new medium where there's no, like fabric arts is what I'm doing now, and there's no money in that. I mean, that's crazy. I'm doing it purely because my muse wants me to, and I'm okay now. But like, thinking if I were thinking of this in terms of like, okay, this is my future. I'm going to be sitting in some room somewhere sewing stuff that nobody's going to really want to pay for. What am I doing? And I do. There's not only the problem with being an artist where you don't get a lot of money. So there's like the very real problem of being poor, which, as you can see, I have this, I don't look poor, right? I'm not poor right now because all these people have been supporting me since I freed my work. I'm not expecting this to last forever, though. But anyway, there's the problem of actually being poor, and then there's the much worse nagging problem that because you're poor, you're doing something wrong. Or because you're not getting the money and you're not doing things, it's just like the complete absence of societal approval for what you're doing. And even I still sometimes think like I should get a job just so that I could wake up and go through the day, like just not having to be responsible for my own choices. It's really like terrifying to go your own way and do your own thing and be completely responsible for that. If I had a job, I'd be like, well, I may hate my job, but I have a job, and I know I'm supposed to have a job, and I'm making money, and therefore I have society's stamp of approval, and I'm okay. And when you're an artist, particularly a poor artist, but usually these mean the same things, you don't have that. So my real advice, I mean, it's advice that I have to take myself every day, is to just stay with it, and really try to separate out the reality of not having more money and just all the messages I have in my head about what that means about me not being okay. Let's see. Life is innately unfair. Yes! Yes, it is. Life is so unfair. There's a book that I really like. Let me pull it down. This, The Gift by Lewis Hyde. Unfortunately, it's not entirely consistent. It is under copyright. Whatever Lewis Hyde is, probably wouldn't agree with me about a lot of copyright things. But I really love the book The Gift. It just helped me sort of sort out why I'm really doing this, and that giving is actually okay. It's not only okay, it's pretty great. We live in this society where everything is supposed to be a commodity and nothing is supposed to have value unless it has a price, and that money and value are equated. That's just not true of art, and it can get really hard for us artists giving. I mean, we're shamed for it, right? I mean, not only, I mean, not only is it like, you know, is there no guarantee of money, but you're supposed to be ashamed to give. Um, so yeah, my advice is like read the gift and be okay with giving, because that's what artists are sort of set up to do, and it's really okay if you can accept giving. That makes it a lot easier to live as an artist. What else have we got? Yeah, hard to build that self-approval from the inside. It is really hard. Oh, one thing I like to say about life being fair is, yeah, life isn't fair. Fortunately, it's unfair to my advantage. I mean, it's another, like, mind thing, is I can feel incredibly sorry for myself and how unfair all this is. And then I can pay attention to how most people in the world actually live. And I'm fine. I'm really fine if I, you know, focus on the now. uh, I'm really okay. I mean, in 2008, I was hemorrhaging money. I lost my apartment to bed bugs. You know, I lost all of my stuff. I had to jettison all my stuff, and I was homeless. Um, and you know, it was really traumatic. So don't let me like downplay trauma. Trauma is real. And yet I was okay. Like, even in the midst of all of that, I had a friend's sofa to sleep on, and I survived. I'm getting into babble territory here. Okay. New ideas come from building on previous ideas. Yes. Money and value are not truly equitable. Obviously, I agree with that. They're not the same thing. Yeah, okay. This is all looking very agreeable. Does anyone else have anything to argue with me here? Y'all seem to rock. Sign on. Let's see. I did buy a full copy of V for Vendetta because I felt the artists deserved to be rewarded for their work. Now that's interesting. Some people do buy like the official copy of things. What I think is even better, if you feel that artists should be rewarded for their work, is to find a way to pay the artist directly. Like, if the artist has set up any way to pay them directly, use that channel, because they're going to get way more money from that direct channel than they will through the sale of something that they're getting royalties on. Does that make sense? You know, I would much rather that somebody downloaded Sita Sings the Blues for free and sent me $10 than if they paid for a $20, well, they pay for the $20 distribution that I sell. I like that also. But let's say they pay for one that's through a downstream, like, okay, they buy one on Amazon. So there are some that are sold on Amazon, and they are endorsed by me, and I get a tiny little royalty off of that. But I'm going to get way more money if they send me $10 directly than if they buy it for $17.99 on Amazon. Then I'm going to get, you know, maybe I'll get $1 or $2 someday, somewhere, maybe, if I'm lucky. So, you know, for supporting artists, do see if the artist has a direct line of support. And for artists who want to be supported, please create that direct line of support. Because again, let's, you know, connect. Connect the audiences with the artists. And of course, what that would be leaving out is the poor publishers and monopolistic distributors and so on. Maybe we want to support those as well. Okay. I don't think I'm going to be able to find the Wachowski brothers and pay them, though. That is true. Isn't telling someone it's a great movie a form of paying the artist? A pat on the back. Paying the artist on the back end. Well, it's not really paying. It's certainly helping the work, though. I mean, paying. I think we're still a little confused with money and value. Promoting the work and telling other people to see it is valuable. It's definitely valuable, possibly even invaluable. It's still not a payment, though. I mean, payment is like a money transaction. It's getting money to the artist. But there are lots of things that you can give that are not actually money that are just as valuable. So certainly spreading the word about a work is very, very valuable, even though I wouldn't call it a payment. What else? Pay. Oh, you know what? What you do pay is attention. So, oh gosh, it's almost over, right? I'm like, oh, it's 12:45. But one of my lines is, attention is scarce, information is not. So one of the whole problems of calling intellectual property is that works of the mind, or whatever, information, it's not property, it's not scarce. What is scarce is your attention. So I do actually feel that everybody is paying me when they look at my work because they're paying attention, and that is their scarce resource. Money is also a scarce resource. Certainly the information that I put out there, once I put it out there, it's not scarce. It can be reproduced infinitely at no cost to me. But your attention is scarce, and I very much appreciate the payment of attention to the works that I put out there. I like Steve's comments. Yeah, he writes, damn it, I should be practicing right now, but I'm glued to this. So is this it? Is it a 45-minute talk? I don't really know how this works. Somebody tell me what I should do. I'm at your mercy. Paying attention, yes. Just, does this go on? I don't know how long I'm supposed to talk. For free. Tell a joke. Okay, why did the chicken cross the road? Why did the chicken cross the road? LOL. The chicken crossed the road to get to your house. Knock, knock. Who's there, a chicken? Okay, that's my joke. Draw us a picture. No, seriously, tell me how much time I have, because I thought I only had until 12:45, but I'm still here. Attention is nice, but doesn't pay the rent. That is true. In fact, I was going to do a Mimi and Eunice cartoon, and maybe I still will, where one of them says, oh, cool, till 55, thank you. One of them says, you can't eat your reputation, something like that, because people were complaining about the Huffington Post not paying not paying bloggers, and bloggers are doing it because they want to up their reputations, and some union is saying, well, you can't eat your reputation, to which I respond, how does that obscurity taste? Are you able to eat that obscurity? If that works for you, great. You know, I make art because I need to make art, and I also need to eat. These things seem to work out. If all I cared about was money, I would not be an artist. If all I cared about was having enough money to eat, and this is like such a joke, right? Food is too mainstream. Food is too mainstream for me. I like that. Somebody yesterday said something that I've heard a lot, which is like, oh, you free your work because you can afford to. I can't afford to free my work. This whole afford to thing is bunk. The reason people say that they can't afford to have freedom, people only breathe because everyone else does, conformists. The reason people say that they can't afford to do something is because they have stuff. It's like, oh, I have a mortgage, I can't afford freedom. Oh, I have car payments, I can't afford freedom. Oh, I have to, I had a family, I had a bunch of kids, I can't afford freedom. I can afford kids, but I can't afford freedom. And freedom is your right, actually. And if you have all these payments, that's what you can't afford. Free coverage should have said. And you can probably hear that I'm angry about this. I really am. I get really sick of people justifying the little prisons that they make for themselves, especially around money. I don't know anybody who can't afford to eat. Yes, I can't afford X equals I value stuff in a way that is incompatible with X. Yeah. I personally can't afford to throw my freedom away for this stuff. I'm really lucky right now. Just looking at this video image of myself with this wall. I have a wall. I have a wall! And I have a table and I have a chair. I'm rich. I can't even tell you how rich I feel. I've been much poorer than this most of my life, and I'll probably be poorer again. But freedom is, freedom is really precious. And this whole idea of, I can't afford to be free, That's your problem. I am not rich. Most of these people that say that they can't afford freedom have lots more money than I do. Lots. Um, and this is not about what you can afford. There are people poorer than me who are very free. This is very much head stuff. If you buy security over freedom, that is the price you pay, says one person. Any other questions in our last 4 minutes? Any? Freedom is free. Y'all have it. Stuff isn't free though. Anything? Puppet show? Let's see. Oh, I can give you some URLs. Please look at my comic strip, Mimi and Eunice. It's at mimiandeunice.com. That's MIMIANDEUNICE.com. There's my site, ninapaley.com, and there's questioncopyright.org. What else? Oh, and of course, SitaSingsTheBlues.com. So if anybody hasn't seen Sita Sings the Blues, look it up. The film is actually good. It's good on its own merits, having nothing to do with copyleft or anything like that. Oh, did you have a moment when you decided your art was not your property? What precipitated that shift? Yeah, I had a moment where I did have a moment, and I think it was in October of 2008. And I think what precipitated it was realizing that holding on to it was killing me. And just realizing that I'd been forced by the law to hold on to it much longer than I wanted to, and I just so wanted it to be out in the world and out of my hands. It became such a burden to hold on to. And once I let go of it, I felt so much better. It's not for everyone though. Like, if you feel better holding on to it, if it doesn't feel like a burden to you, if it feels like property to you, hold on to it. You don't have to though. I'm glad I didn't. Anything else? Anything? Thank you everyone who has supported me for supporting me. What's my view of artists preventing people from viewing their art until years after they die? Well, I don't actually have a problem with secrets. My problem is when you publish something and then try to control other people. So if you publish it, you make it public, and once it's public, it's public. But if you keep something private, I'm all right with that. I mean, I wouldn't do what Twain did, and Twain just loved copyright. I wouldn't do that. But if you don't publish something and want to keep it secret, that's okay. That's privacy. I think privacy is an important. I would like to call it a right. I sure wish it were. Yeah. Okay, so are we done? Can I sign off? A minute early? Rock and roll. Thank you, everybody. Bye.